Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, I want us to talk about Bitcoin, the long-term trend. Um, so what I talk a lot about on this channel is just the long-term outlook of Bitcoin. Really, when I'm looking at Bitcoin, it's my major plays start on the monthly. Smaller plays can be done at a lower time frame. The weekly I think is a fantastic time frame to swing trade. The monthly is as well, and this is where you really get to see the big picture of Bitcoin. No one really likes to use it because, well, like, just using the last cycle as an example. Well, in 2015 would have been the best time to buy, right? The RSI was at its lowest, and you would have had to have wait, 2 3 years until you finally realize the potential of it. That's a long time for a lot of people, especially in the world of crypto where everything is extremely quick and things move very quickly. But I love to share with you guys the base of operations that I work off of, which is the monthly, and basing a lot of my plays in these areas here when risk is the lowest, when it's the best time to start accumulating Bitcoin. Obviously, if you're just getting started now, you're working off of this, right? And you don't have a time machine. Like, what can you do, and why would you listen to this? Well, I would suggest for the newcomers, obviously there's a ton of different channels out there on YouTube alone that talk about shorter term time frame movements and price movements, and even I talk about that as well, which will carry you here henceforth throughout the cycle. But afterwards, there's going to be an end to the party. The host is going to kick everyone out, and at which point things will start to turn south. Right? It's not like we haven't seen it before. We've seen things turn south many a time, right? And we've come out just fine. But it's in those times when we get to see, um, the true mettle of people, right? To put it lightly, a lot of people just leave. They give up. I've had a couple people that I know that kind of gave up on it, which is fine. Crypto's not for everyone. But I would suggest for you newcomers to stick around, and stick around when on the monthly RSI you get to see something on the 40s to the 50s in that area, because those are the best times to start accumulating Bitcoin. Um, uh, in the long term, right? In the long term. Hindsight is 2020. You get to see these moves here, and they happen every single time. And if you're like me, who got in around here, or I think to be precise, it was around here. Um, I didn't get to see this or this, but when it came the next time around, I was there. And for those who didn't, shame on you. Okay, shame on you. And hopefully the next cycle, you think a little bit more critically on that. And so I would suggest to the newcomers to stick around. Losing money isn't fun, but hopefully you find a bunch of channels on YouTube, or I don't know, on Wolfram Alpha or something, uh, that you trust and you tend to follow, and that you make a decent sized profit into the next cycle. And so this is not necessarily a video of talking about the next cycle. I'm still talking about this cycle, but we're talking about the power of the RSI on the monthly. The monthly RSI, I think, is a fantastic indicator to use when trying to indicate tops. So with that said, we can see that the RSI, to put it very generally, it is an indicator to indicate indicator to indicate when something is overbought, like up here, or oversold, like down here. And if it is oversold, then it's a pretty good time to buy, because eventually it will swing. One of the great things about Bitcoin is that it has these amazing boom and bust cycles that keep on repeating, until it doesn't. But I would expect it to continue, at least into the next cycle. So not the cycle that we're in, but at least into the next cycle. These boom and bust cycles, and it's also replicated onto the RSI, right? These major swings. And, you know, the great thing is about the monthly is that it's very simple. It cuts a lot of the noise out. Um, and you get to see it. I mean, like a great example of it is this candle right here. Anyone know what that candle is? That is the coronavirus dump, where Bitcoin dropped, 24.66% on the month, opening from at $8,500, and closed at 6,400, but went to a low of $3,800, right? That is that. Okay. Another one is this one right here. This is the Great May dump that brought Bitcoin back below its 20-week moving average, that we were all talking about. So again, for all the newcomers here, if there's anything that you might take away from this is to, take a look at the monthly chart. Take a look at the monthly RSI. I tend to do it also on the channel. You can also just subscribe to my channel, and I'll make periodic updates on the Bitcoin monthly chart anyhow. But you can already see we've made a peak here on the RSI. Now, looking at the peaks, okay, looking at the peaks, we notice that they're pretty consistent, right? They're pretty darn consistent. We see these peaks here. We saw a peak of 96, 97, 94, 96 again, and this peak here was 91.73. Now to get even more complex, there are some, arguments to be made that this is actually a descending RSI, or it could just be, if you want to just put it simple, any range in the 90s, whether that's 90.1 or 99. Bitcoin is reaching the point where it is reaching a market cycle peak, right? And either of those two work, right? Every single time that Bitcoin manages to touch the 90s, we see Bitcoin trend back, right? You can see here, RSI high of 97, Bitcoin made a new all-time high, and it retraced. Simple as that. So, with this in mind, what else do we see? We see Bitcoin making two peaks, 2 peaks per cycle. We already have one peak. It is safe to assume we can expect another. And I'm sure a lot of you are expecting another. I'm sure a lot of you didn't expect $64,000 to be the new all-time high, and that's it, which is fine. I also agree. There's going to be debate, okay, and this is where the fun begins. So the debate right now is where is the all-time high, the new all-time high. You have 300,000 being thrown somewhere, $200,000. I'm in the camp of around $100,000. So like, and I would say a little north of 100,000. So $120,000, to me seems fair enough, and especially for someone who started accumulating Bitcoin around this area, I think it was like $5,000. 5,000 to 120,000 is, a 27,000% move for Bitcoin. So, oh, sorry, no, 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 no. That's extremely wrong. 2,600%. That sounds a little better. Sorry, I misread the number. It was like 1.26 million. So, with that said, pretty decent return. I'm happy with it. And so for this exercise, we're going to be using, $120,000 is the market cycle peak. And this is how the RSI can help indicate that, right? And the next thing is to determine when, right? Is it this year, next year, or 2023? I think 2022, as far forward as 2023. Okay, my mind is set to 2022, somewhere in 2022, but I will extend it as far as 2023. I don't think it's going to happen this year. So with that said, We have the RSI, we have our price. Let's go on to Google Sheets. Now, you might be wondering what the hell is this, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But basically, um, I've aggregated the data back to as far back as 2014, right? Each row is a month. So we're taking the monthly close of Bitcoin of every month until our most recent data point, which is August. And then there's this. What is this? We'll get to that in a second. But basically, just to explain, you have the close, so the price, the gain. So is it the price difference between, in this case, November 2014 to October 2014? That is the difference. The change between these prices, um, as well as the gain and the loss. So if it was a profit, if it moved up, the number will be set here. If it was a loss, say for like compared to November and December, then it was a loss of $57. It'll show in this column here. Average gain is a 14-day average of all the I believe it's the P3, P50, yeah, of the gains, right? So you take the sum of all these numbers divided by 14, you get this number. Average loss, same thing, but for this column. Then you have the RS and the 14-day RSI. I essentially calculated the formula with the RS and then essentially recreated on Google Sheets the RSI. Why did I do this? Well, it gets interesting because then you get to this point. This chunk of data right here. This chunk of data doesn't exist. Okay, this is a projection from October 1st, which is the month we're in now, all the way to August 1st, 2023. Okay, so I've mapped out exactly 2 years ahead of time. And this is, I'm just explaining the methodology of this. So essentially, we know where we're starting at, right? The September close, well, right now is about $46,000. The the price in our head, right, is $120,000. And so you have that here. $125,999 by August 1st, 2023. So essentially, the price of Bitcoin on average per month would have to increase about 3,500 US dollars a month in order to get to that figure. Okay, now obviously you can't just put 35, 35, 35 for every cell slowly increasing because that screws up the RSI, right? Like it would not make sense anymore, and the indicator would never work. So with that said, I had some pumps, some losses, some moves sideways, pump, arbitrary. Okay, this is all arbitrary. There's no basis on why I put a loss of $6,000 by July 1st, 2022. Nothing like that whatsoever. But it's to kind of imitate price movements, if you will. So bear with me here. Imitate the price moves, adding the price. Obviously, when we think of the later stages of, you know, any kind of bull market, we see the price get more and more aggressively moving, right? Like the last 3 months of the cycle here, October 2017, November, December, are pretty big price moves. It was pretty wild. Same thing with 2013, 2014. You saw this, and then you saw a massive candle, 471% move on November 1st, in the month of November 2013. So I'm trying to mimic that, right? So you can see that here. Obviously, I am also in the camp of lengthening cycles. So these moves are going to take longer, right? So not in a span of 3 months, but 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 months of four, no, sorry, 4 months of pumps. But all in all, basically from December to October 1st is where the giant move starts. So yeah, this is just me trying to imitate price movement. This is by no means what's gonna exactly happen, But the purposes of imitating price moves is to get kind of an indication of the RSI. And so you can see that at the last column right here. You can see that we're starting now, I think in October, yeah, in the 70s or so. And I think the actual RSI is set to 66, so a little lower. So you see this, and mind you, like this is the price index of Bitcoin. The closing prices I got here is from Yahoo Finance. Okay, so the numbers are going to be a little different. Hence the difference in the RSI by a small amount. But you can see that we go and then into maybe the winter Q1 we kind of drop a bit, but we increase, but we never get to 90. But you can see that we generally get in like the price increases, the RSI increases, and ergo by 2023 when we reach $125,000 we get an RSI of 94. So that brings us to this chart here. Let's see if I can. Okay, so this is what it kind of looks like. So obviously this starts at 2014, right? So this is the last move that brought us to $20,000. This is on a logarithmic scale on the left axis. On the right axis is the RSI. Bottom lower axis, the x-axis, is the dates. So you can see here for the RSI, you can see the peak here coincides here, but we're trying to mimic this peak here, right? And so here we go. And this is kind of just a visual representation of what an RSI peak could look like for Bitcoin, right? You see that we've made a first peak. We need to make a second peak. This is an example of what that could look like, right? With a target of about $100,000 to $120,000. Now, mind you, the RSI is indicative of the price differences of the previous close, right? So if, for example, Bitcoin does not moves quicker than anticipated, then the RSI is going to increase quicker. It's going to go to 100 faster. And especially if we have 14 months of just green price movement, then by August of next year, we're gonna see that we're gonna see 100 on the RSI, right? So keep that in mind. With that said, this is kind of what I have in my head. This is the kind of visual representation that I have in my head that I wanted to share with you. That this is what it could look like, right? So you could see this is the prior all-time high of the last cycle. We made it to $64,000 here. We dropped, right? But then we slowly increased. Maybe we drop again back down to $55,000 sometime in of next year. Say for example, we break the 20-week moving average again, we get back up, and then it's the final run to $120,000, thus bringing the RSI to the high 90s, indicating some kind of market cycle peak. So there's a lot of speculation going on here, but it is for the purposes of mimicking price movement, right? We can't just have a straight line. And also it's to help indicate that, yes, the RSI can help indicate a market cycle peak, dependent on, what price you had in mind. And you can also make this, like, this is pretty easy to make, and whatever time frame like deadline you want to put. I put August 1st, 2023. You can put it of 2022, and then you can have a set final price, right? Like, are you aiming for $300,000? Well, you can project that out if you wanted to and see how it will work in that amount of time. And hopefully, especially if you really think it's $300,000, you'll get to understand how crazy that kind of assumption is. At least with mine, it really is just $3,500 per month for 2 years, which I think is pretty attainable, right? If we're taking $300,000, for example, by year's end, the price is at what, $47,000 right now. We would have to gain $253,000 in a matter of months, right? We're talking It's September. I'll count that as a month. September, October, November, December. You know, by year's end, that's 4 months. It's not very long. That's $63,000 a month, which I think is crazy. Anyways, I hope this is helpful. I had fun making it. I had fun. I like manipulating data. You know, to kind of make it. I made a video about using Google Trends and using the word Bitcoin in Google Trends and trying to mimic market cycle peaks through there as well. This is kind of another way of doing it, right? But with the RSI and kind of just mimicking price movement, and then you determine the RSI peak. So, with that said, Bitcoin right now is trading at, well, this is the index. So, Bitcoin's trading at 46,471. The RSI right now is 66.38. Obviously, we're not there yet, but you know, check the monthly chart, check the monthly RSI. Um, Feel free to also look up, you know, making your own charts like this on Google Sheets. It's fairly simple to make. It took 10 minutes, really. Most of it, which is just kind of changing the prices to mimic, you know, price fluctuations. But I hope you enjoyed it. That's all for today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye bye.